Welcome back, everyone, to Molotov Cocktails. I am Otep Shemaya. This is my co-host, Brett Katinas.
Hello, everyone.
And this might be our last podcast. I hope it isn't, but with everything going on in the fucking world, who the fuck knows? I don't. So we've got a lot to cover in a very short amount of time. So let's jump right in. A lot of people that I've spoken to, and I'm sure you've spoken to as well, Brett, have said, I can't believe these things are happening in America. I can't believe. How can you not believe it? You've never opened a history book? You never watched a documentary in your life? You don't know America has never been great? We've always been awful? Always. America's original sin was genocide. The forced removal, the massacres, the broken treaties, the very foundation of this nation was blood-soaked before we ever even broke free from the British. Let's fast forward to the 1830s, the Trail of Tears. It was government policy, signed and enforced by President Andrew Jackson under the Indian Removal Act of 1830. Tribes like the Cherokee, the Muskogee, the Chickasaw, Choctaw, and Seminole were forcibly marched west off their ancestral lands. And why, Brett?
Because white people wanted their land to grow cotton and chase gold.
Because white people wanted the land to chase gold and grow cotton. They didn't care how they got it, them greedy fuckers. So thousands of indigenous people were forced onto the Trail of Tears by the Union Army. So many, thousands died from starvation, disease, exhaustion. They were marched over 1,000 miles. Many were barefoot, carrying whatever they could, their children, whatever goods that they thought were important to their lives. And those who couldn't march were forced into wagons like cargo. It wasn't just cruelty. It was strategy. It was fucking law. It was national policy driven by racism, greed, manifest destiny, and expansionism. Fast forward to 1864, the Sand Creek Massacre. U.S. soldiers attacked a peaceful Cheyenne and Arapaho village in Colorado. 200 people, mostly women and children, were slaughtered. Many were mutilated. Their body parts, even their private parts, were paraded around the city of Colorado like they were trophies, placed on saddle horns, taken into saloons, hung up on the walls, dehumanizing the original people of this land, all because of racism, this false idea of manifest destiny, and the greed of settler Americans. Let's fast forward again to 1890, Wounded Knee. Again, the U.S. Army opened fire on the Lakota. 300 people killed. It's called a battle in some books, but it wasn't. It was a massacre, and they knew it. It wasn't just bullets either. Disease was weaponized. At Fort Pitt, blankets infected with smallpox were knowingly handed to Native people so they would die. And thousands did. Thousands. Some estimates say 17,000 indigenous people died from this deliberate exposure to biological weapons. And later came the boarding schools. Native children were torn from their families, forced to cut their hair, forced to speak English, forced to worship Christianity, to forget their language, forget their gods, forget where they come from. And their motto, Brett?
Kill the Indian, save the man.
Kill the Indian, save the man. But the saddest part is so many children were beaten, they were brutalized, and they were buried in unmarked graves. And we're still uncovering those graves to this day, to this hour. And behind it all, the treaties, hundreds, almost all of them, broken, land taken, sovereignty crushed. And that's where this country begins, on stolen land. Then came the labor to work it. That's where slavery comes in. And this is where we confront another lie that just won't fucking die. Brett, you ever hear someone say, only 2% of white Americans own slaves?
Yes, I did. In fact, it was on your YouTube channel in one of your comments for our previous episode.
Hmm? Yeah, so they say it or they type it or like it's the end of the conversation. Like slavery was just a few rich white guys with whips and everyone else was innocent bystanders. But the truth is that 2% is a distortion, right? It's a lie. Because in 1860, the US had about 31 million people. Nearly 4 million of them were black slaves. That's 1 in every 8 human beings in this country, legally considered property. That 2% stat, it's taken from the entire free population, including women and children who couldn't legally own anything or vote. It's designed to mislead. The real numbers? In the South, about a quarter of white families owned enslaved people. In Mississippi and South Carolina, almost half. So no, slavery wasn't a fringe issue. It was the system. Laws were written to protect it. Churches preached it. Militias enforced it. Newspapers defended it. Gee, that sounds familiar. Does that sound familiar to you, Brad?
So familiar.
So fucking familiar. Okay, so it sounds familiar. Whole white communities were investing in keeping it alive. Cotton, sugar, tobacco, those crops powered America's early economy. And they were built on black slave labor. Northern banks financed it, northern factories processed it, the federal government defended it. And most white enslavers weren't wealthy plantation owners. They were just regular ass people. Small town farmers, businessmen. I mean, owning human beings wasn't an elite luxury like a yacht. It was common. And enslaved black people weren't hidden on remote plantations either. They were everywhere. They were cooking food. They were raising children. They were nursing children. So, they're not good enough to be full people, but they're good enough to nurse your child, nurse your toddler. They were building homes, they were working fields, and white people grew up surrounded by black labor. Slaves, they not only benefited from it, they depended on it. So no, this wasn't a 2% problem. It was America's operating system. And that system was fucking brutal, bro. Yes, slavery was about violence. I mean, crazy ass violence. The shit that they really got away with. I mean, they would make gloves and bridle reins and lampshades out of the skin of indigenous folk and enslaved black folk. So it wasn't just whips, auctions, and rapes, it was also infrastructure. By 1860, cotton made up more than half of US exports. Half. Banks in New York and London gave out loans secured by black bodies. These insurance companies sold property policies on slaves like they were ships or buildings or some shit. Like they were commodities, not human beings. And I'll grant them this. Even if a white person never saw a slave, they never saw one, never heard one, they didn't read the books, they didn't see the propaganda, they didn't nothing. They still profited from it. They profited from slave labor. They profited from slavery. Textile mills, railroads, port cities, shipping lines, the whole economy was entangled in slavery. And that myth of the kind master, Brett, was that true?
Total propaganda.
Total propaganda. There's no kindness in owning a human being. I mean, a slave could be beaten for learning to read, but they were supposed to be Christians, forced to be Christians. They could be sold away from their own children, or vice versa. Their children could be sold away from them. Slaves were raped without consequence. The slave master enslaving his own children. The kind slave master. Give me a fucking break. Ownership is fucking violence, bro. And when slavery ended in 1865, it didn't disappear. It fucking morphed into sundown towns, Jim Crow, sharecropping, chain gangs, segregation. The names changed, the goal didn't. And meanwhile, that 2% myth lived on, offering cover for all the lies that have followed. Now, let's fast forward. You with me, Brett?
I'm with you.
We're going through time here, bro. You with me?
I'm with you.
All right. And people started pushing back. Oh, that was a long time ago. Get over it. America's the greatest country in the world. But greatness without honesty is just arrogance and eager stupidity. Let's go to 2008. Barack Obama. He's elected. He's the first black or biracial president. That's historic, right? But Brett, did most of the white voters vote for him?
No, they didn't.
Not in 2008?
Nor 2012.
So race still shapes the American map. And let's talk about the economy. You've heard it. Blue states are disasters. But what does it say, Brett?
Majority of the states that gave more money back to the federal government than took from the federal government are blue states.
So California, where I live, New York, where you live, Illinois, Washington, we all subsidize red states, the rest of the country. And crime? Everyone talks about cities like Chicago and Baltimore. But what's the reality, Brett?
7 of the 10 states with the highest homicide rates were red states.
Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Arkansas, South Carolina, Tennessee, Missouri, or Missouri. So when someone says liberal states are chaotic or that brave white men built this country, fuck you. No, they did not, and no, it isn't. This country was built on stolen land by stolen people. By people whose names history has erased and is still erasing to this very hour under this criminal, corrupt Cheeto Shitler regime. So if we get to the heart of it, calling America great is a fucking lie. We've never been great. Great for who? Indigenous people, black people, gay people, women, immigrants who came from Europe that were white, the Irish, the Dutch, the Italians, but weren't considered white until after the Civil War. We've never been fucking great. We just had the promised capacity to be great. But that promise dims and disappears every moment of every hour of every day under Cheeto Shitler's corrupt regime. Slavery was not a 2% issue. It was a national economy, a social order, and a moral catastrophe. The invisible genocide of indigenous people, that was not a side note. It was federal policy. So slavery wasn't a fringe issue. Indigenous massacres weren't battles. They were slaughters. And those who choose to believe these blatant lies, they're not after the truth. They're playing politics. But history isn't politics. It's reality. It's what happened. It's the ground we're standing on. And until we face it fully, honestly, painfully, we're just building new lies on top of old lies, on top of old lies, on top of old lies. So we have to culturally excavate, do some forbidden archaeology on American history to fully accept the role that melanin deficient people have benefited from since colonists first stepped foot on this land, on Turtle Island. So the question isn't, was America great? Was America great? Why isn't America great anymore? The question is, can America be honest enough to become great? These are the conversations we need. This is the reckoning we keep running from. And until that day that we force these MAGA motherfuckers to the fringe, to the edges, back under the rocks they fucking crawled out from, we are going to further fold and roll into more chaos, more disaster, into an oligarchy, and we will lose our precious democracy and that promised capacity of liberty and justice for all. If this episode made you think, listeners, share it. Talk about it. Push the conversation forward. Because facing the truth isn't about guilt. I'm not trying to make you feel sorry about yourself or your grandpappy or your great-great-great-great-great-great-grandpappy. I'm not trying to make you guilt that shit. I'm trying to make you grow. All of us together. All right. Until next time, take care of yourselves and take care of each other.